All right, guys, we are here. We are here with the one and the only ferrets. How are you, ferrets?
Should we probably rename me to the late ferret and not the tactical ferret?
Yeah, you can definitely fit that description of the very late ferret.
Not very late, just the late ferret.
Fashionably late ferret. How's that?
Something like that.
Sure. So we're here with the fashionably late ferrets. And guys, obviously we got a roadmap update. I have stayed away from this as much as humanly possible, because obviously I want my reaction to be genuine, and I've been told that there may be some squealing involved. So at the end of the day, we're going to go through. We're going to talk about the monthly report. Then there will be a second video for the day that will also have the roadmap roundup, where we go through and we break down the progress tracker. And then we'll also do a third video, which is going to be the release view. So obviously stay in tuned for that. So 3 videos today, and let's just jump straight into it because, I don't have all day. In the month of May, Citizen Assistant, which is the first understood the term, blah blah blah. So AI content. The AI content team focused on tech that's also beneficial to Invictus launch week, which included polishing the tourist guide behavior, wilderness looking okay, IK. I don't know what IK is. Item cache maybe. I don't know. And completing the requirement female animations. They dedicate time to the mannequin fragments, which we heard about from last week, which was obviously the AI talk from last week. Animation sections to ensure that correctly fit their context, and the shopkeeper gained more usables that players would especially see in the food and drink shops. They also started designing possible flow extensions to allow NPCs to serve players differently by if they choose to eat in or take away. For example, this will allow food to be given to other players directly or served on a plate and tray. The security guard was fully designed and prototyped. This behavior offers great gameplay opportunities in an emergent or systematic way, and it fulfills the scenario of NPCs acting as law enforcement and information provides gatekeepers and greeters. So we do have 2 videos for this now. We will play the first one and show you what that looks like. Oh, sorry. I don't have any sound. Do you have sound on these videos?
No, there is no sound.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So let's start this again. Okay, that's pretty cool. So when you walk up to them, they'll salute and then let you through.
Maybe.
As long as they're not standing on chairs. So that one also salutes as well. So I'm guessing the third one in the video there doesn't let you actually through. So he's like, this is like someone standing on the left-hand side, someone standing on the right-hand side, and then the third one is someone who's guarding the entrance and whatever it may be, right? So that's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. And the second thing we have is this, which actually has sound apparently. Has no sound apparently too. So it's just a guy doing guard duty, looking over a railing, whatever it may be, right? Obviously, presumably this is on a second story building. So he's obviously presumably looking over the railing to see what's below him, stuff like that. Pretty cool. So it's just AI doing that AI thing. AI content has also continued designing and prototyping the background life for the medical room in which players respawn, including a systematic janitor and NPCs using the bathroom cubicles and sleeping in the bunk beds. So AI features, the AI feature team and further development combat, including the ability for the enemy fighters to finish off their targets, AI or players, with execution animations. So AI feature team developed combat, including the ability for enemy fighters. Oh, okay, so that'd be like finishing moves. So like maybe they'll stab you in the neck or something like that to finish you off, maybe. Although it does say enemy fighters, so I wonder if that's like jet fighters or if that's just like players. Invade the existing stealth takedown system for use by AI. So, okay, so it's hand-to-hand combat. And make it more data-driven so that it supports different types of takedowns with their own settings. For example, the minimum and maximum distance a takedown can be performed from which it can coordinate the attacker must be in the relative to the target. For spaceships, okay, so yeah, that was definitely hand-to-hand combat. So for spaceships, AI features adapt the fighter combat behavior to better utilize missiles. This avoids selecting the right type and number of missiles to fire so that NPCs don't exhaust all their high damage missiles on small targets in group combat. This ensures that missiles are a good spread of range of targets and rationed for use throughout the fight. This leads to interesting behavior where fighters will soften up targets with a barrage of missiles before engaging in dogfight, firing occasional missiles at an opponent. They also work on the pilot security behavior to fix issues that occur when the target has surrendered or been arrested. As a part of the larger security behavior, work continued on the weapons training sub-behavior where NPCs can improve their combat abilities by using a firing range. Ooh. Firstly, a weapon has to be retrieved from the armor, with the team updates existing venue and Patreon behaviors to support relative and return to the armory. For the firing range, the team had to adapt the existing targeting and firing seams to support non-agent targets. This technology will be used in the future to support the destructible in combat. For example, all AI might need to take out a combat bank. The AI might need to take out a computer bank and complete a mission objective. The groundwork for targeting specific parts of the body, i.e. headshots, non-human bodied agents, animals, was completed too. Finally, for all AI features, the team in further development trained weapon combat. They also prepared for upcoming mocap sessions for untrained cover behaviors, responding to dead bodies, hostile reactions and usables, cowering and surrendering. So, as for the AI, we also have AI Tech. We'll read this out and then we'll have a discussion about it. Throughout May, AI Tech completed the address feedback, the Tier 0 navlink work. This involved making improvements to how the cache data is used during navigation links with non-warp animations, but also recomputerizing navigation links, computer connection points where the navigation mesh changes in its proximity. On the EVA side, working on NPC transitions from 0G into usable, the vice versa was completed. Following the form, they began developing 0G collision avoidance for NPCs, which allows them to avoid other characters, AI or players, and small objects while floating, presumably asteroids and stuff like that as well. They will then use 3D Orca was implemented for the ship AI collision coordinates. The team also added a new feature to movement requests. They're now able to replane designer pass at the end, allowing them to create loops. Another feature worked on was the planetary navigation. This aim was also to generate navigation meshes on planets that can be used to NPCs and animals around outposts. Oh, that's important. AI for animals. So that would be the stalker, for example. This will use physics information such as each time planetary tiles physicalized navigation meshes will also be generated too. I would say that's definitely your stalker, your crabs, your stuff like that. Your space whale even would also use it for space. For Subsumptive Editor 2, the team added a new function allowing them to create or modify multiple subsumptions functions in the same window view. This will benefit to the designer when writing mission scripts or behavior, as they will overview and logic in the same place. Okay, so basically what they've done here with AI is pretty damn impressive. Basically, they're working on like guards and stuff like that. They're working on genital staff, like for example, like did I say genital or general? General staff, where
Nice.
like for example, where you can go through, you'll have like people in the background, workers. You'll have like hospital staff in the background doing mopping and stuff like that. And they've also gone through and worked on the fighting and the both the military and the commercial side. So the civilian side, so where the civilians might go through and cower in fear if someone points a gun at them, they've also programmed all that. They've done a lot with AI this month.
Oh yeah.
AI is really taking they're really taking it in its stride. They've done a lot. This is pretty damn impressive stuff.
Just a little heads up since you've already said the Boreal Stalker.
Mm-hmm.
Since we mentioned that, I would also like to mention that there is a character and a tech team work being done on it.
Yep.
And it should be done by the 3rd week of June. Just a saying, that's plenty of time for 3.14.
Yeah, we've heard rumors that the Stalker might be coming in 3.14 or 3.15. I've heard 3.14. I think you've also heard 3.14 or.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
I've heard 3.14 too.
Yeah, so we might have to go and explore some of these microtech moons and planets when microtech comes out in 3.14.
When we do the exploring, I'm going to be exploring with my freaking railgun. Warmed and ready.
I was going to say tank.
Now, I think a railgun should put it down.
Yeah, we'll find out one way or another. Tune in for that video when Ferrets gets eaten by a stalker. But yeah, as for the AI, I'm actually quite impressed with what they've done. It seems like they've really done a lot of work. So they have not been... And, they've also been doing, like, tourism, like the tour guides and stuff like that. People might sit there and think, oh, wow, they've done tourist guides for the Javelin. Whoop-de-doo. Here's the thing. That tech can be recycled for other stuff. Just because they're using it for one thing doesn't mean it's not another. Maybe they might need a tour guide, for example, for the Genesis Starliner. And maybe the Genesis Starliner is going to go through... We found this data recorder that talks about the tours that happen with the Genesis Starliner. Maybe they need a tour guide for that, right? So they've already done most of the work for that. All they simply do is copy the existing tour guide they've got for the Javelin, put it on the Genesis Starliner, change the points where the tour guide activates their speech, and change the speech. So instead of saying, here we have a turret, they might say, here out the window we have a nebula. So
Nice.
Just because they're going through and they're doing stuff for like the Javelin, doesn't mean it can't be reused for other things. Maybe they need a tour guide for Orison, which we know they have. So maybe they'll go through and all they simply do is they copy the tour guide from the Javelin. That's a base. They then put it on Orison. They change the details. And all of a sudden you now have a tour guide going around Orison pointing out some of the locations that are of interest. If they want to add a tour guide to Hurston or Microtech or any of those sort of places now, they just simply copy the tour guide they've got from the Javelin and they can just simply change the details. It's a lot easier to copy and paste it than when it is to go through and redesign it all from scratch. And they can just simply use that existing tour guide they've got as a base. So instead of taking 12 weeks to make a tour guide, for example, now it might take 12 days. Instead of being 12 weeks, it might be 2 weeks. For example, right? So just because like people sit there and go, wow, it's a Javelin tour guide, who cares? It's not a once every now and then. They can use this over and over and over. And we know there's a tour guide for Orison. We know there's a tour guide on the Javelin. Hey, what makes you think CIG is not going to recycle that tech? And I believe that the reason why we had the tour guide on the Javelin was a test bed. It was a test bed for something for later on, for like Orison, for example. So people seem to see these small scale tests, and they don't realize that it's part of the plan for a bigger thing. It really, really is.
It's all building up to my Idris.
Well, I don't know if the Idris will have a tour guide, but we found that data link that has that talks about the Genesis Starliner. It talks about tour guides on that. So at the end of the day,
I mean, yes, they just might not have tour guides, but that doesn't mean I can't hire tour guides for my Idris.
exactly right. You could go through and you could hire someone to be on your Idris as a tour guide.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can like hire people to take my tour.
Yeah.
To make me feel special.
Yeah. Animation. Last month, Animation worked on several different life animations, including those for vendors, search behavior, emergency reaction when in usables. I think that's also civilian reactions to threats. That is NPCs for colonialism, I'm telling you now. Medical revival, guarding and security, searching bodies, and reaction to dead bodies. They also worked on the tour guide, once again, and tourist for Invictus. Supported a few new vehicles and built test rigs for 2 creature types and salvage weapons. Built 2 rigs for 2 test creatures. 2 creature types. What's the bet? Stalker is one, Whale is the next.
Maybe. Does sound oddly suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Built test rigs for 2 types of creatures. Not the same type. 2 types of creatures. For example, a space whale and a stalker. They'll be different because obviously a stalker walks on legs, whale flaps its fins and flies through the air, right? They're different types of animations. That's what they would be referring to. If it was like, for example, the stalker and the crab, necessarily mightn't be that different. They might be like, for example, one walks on 2 legs, one walks on 4 or 8 legs. But they're very similar, right? But they're saying here types. I think this is space whale and also stalker. That's what I reckon. And I reckon we're going to get both those creatures in 3.14 or 3.15. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Ran out of space. So I think we're going to get it for 3.14 or 3.15. That would be my guess when it comes to the stalkers and the whale. Obviously, we don't have anybody working on the inside. Well, we have people that we talk to, but we don't have data miners or anything like that. But we just seem to be a lot more accurate than some of the other YouTube channels out there or Discords. But moving along. Art. Characters spent May wrapping up new assets for Orison and beginning providing detail designs with actor records and loadouts to populate the new landing zone with the concept artists working on civilians, vendors, and gangs. That's interesting. Of the Pyro system. We know what some of those gangs are because they're in Star Citizen Live. While the character artists progressed with 3 armor sets and generic backpacks. So, also with art with environmental, the landing zone team supported Invictus, closing out bugs across the various show halls. Orison is nearing completion with the final polished work and LOD's pass remaining before signing off. I would say we're probably due for a patch for 3.14. I would say maybe halfway through this year. Halfway through this month. So I would say probably between the 15th to the 20th, I would expect the Evocati patch. The model team progressed with final art on the final first set of Outpost Consignment. A high level of planning is ongoing to define the next set of content after the initial exploratory set is done. to provide variety across the various outposts. Alongside this team is beyond the integral crawl spaces into existing content, and after a round of feedback, the team is closely to finalising the look of the jump gate gas cloud. That's interesting.
Nice.
With particular attention being paid to the centre where the actual point is located. It's interesting they're working on jump points.
Yes.
Planet Concept Team is focusing on planets for the Nink system. They keep experimenting with fresh new biomes and asset packs. We want Ninks to look unique so that its most adventurous citizens get satisfied exploring these new lands. Additionally, we have new harvestables that was completed and populated through Pyro. In Montreal, the modular team finished their first locations, putting the final touches to the new Bamage and Orison hospitals. They then moved into the further hospitalization locations for Lawville and Area 18, alongside clinics for Grimhex and various space stations. They're working as efficiently as possible to maximize the number of locations available once medical gameplay goes live.
They are really nailing those things down, aren't they?
They're actually really busy at CIG, aren't they? The US-based team is to complete the RSI Constellation Taurus, which moved into the relapse prep stage, a ship art focusing on finishing the completed LODs, while tech worked through various features like timings, landing gear, and STF shields. These release prep review is scheduled for an early June before the shipment moves to QA for polishing and bug fixing. Last month, work also began on the Crusader Ares, with the team meeting various stakeholders to review the white box, although there were a few remaining tasks to be could be signed off. It's also moved out. Art also moved to the grey box stage. So the Ares is actually starting to get worked on too. The art design team supported Invictus patch, dealing with various bugs that were important to the player's experience towards the end of the month. The production kicked off a schedule for the Drake Vulture, which is expected to begin in early June. Now, you and I have had this conversation in the past, and we'll just reiterate for everybody here. I've said the Vulture will most likely come out with salvage. Everybody thinks the Reclaimer is going to get it. I don't think it will. I think they're going to bring out the Vulture before the Reclaimer. They're going to want a small-scale test, and they're not going to have to sit there and go back through the Reclaimer and rework it to get the mechanic put in. They can just reincorporate, or they can incorporate this into the Vulture, which is a new ship, and then once that's done, then they can go back and modify the Reclaimer to meet these requirements that they need for the salvage mechanic. I think they're just going to bring it into the Vulture because of this small scale test. And the UK team worked towards the various Invictus deliverables, including getting the exterior art of the Aegis Reclaimer to final art stage. Well, we know it's not just the exterior. We know what the interior looks like too, because someone might have glitched the camera through. And creating various themed spaceship paints. They also worked on the prep to the Javelin, including an airlock entrance area that utilizes the new docking mechanic, and the holo display in the briefing room, which was bespoke for the event. What does bespoke mean?
Means it's a design specially for that, and nothing else.
That's what I thought. So they're talking about the Invictus week here. But I didn't think we got to the briefing. Oh, briefing room, yes. Yes, the briefing room we were allowed, yes. Not the I was thinking the bridge. As previously mentioned, unannounced ships made great progress. It needs final loading pass and general polish for the interior to be wrapped up, while the exterior requests technical damage exterior lighting, and general polish pass. Once done, it'll move to the art tech team. Work also began on a brand new ship that would be revealed later in the year.
Let me guess, it's the 400i.
Oh boy. Alongside new content, the team have 2 ships working their way through the gold standard progress, which they're incorporating in the last feature and generally improving vehicles. The Sabre is nearing the end of the progress, while the Retaliator, that's interesting, not what I thought would actually come through first, but regardless, while the Retaliator is underway, although it still has a lot left to do. Work done also far included the widening of the doors and lighting corridors to allow better AI navigation and positioning of the lifts and the airlock in the central room. Time was also spent on the R&D looking into wear and tear or wear and dirt, as well as further optimization to ship exteriors. So it looks like we're going to get the Sabre Raven before we know it, and the Retaliator looks like it might also be the next one up for the gold standard treatment. It also looks like they went through and changed the widening of the hallways, and also they went through and repositioned the lifts for the Retaliator. That's interesting. Vitalia is probably not the one that I would have picked up next for gold standard treatment, but hey. The weapons team continued to focus on bugs and polishing for Alpha 3.13 and 3.13.1 patches and supported the Tumblr's Nova's main cannon. Once completed, they moved to the Grey Cat salvage tool, the first pass rigging, using the weapon as a training asset for the rigging process. The main gadget's white box asset was also iterated on with early blockout before they moved for a concept phase. So nothing really major there. Obviously, they're working on the mining gadgets. They're also working on the salvage tool, while they also fix some of the bugs for 3.13 and 3.13.1. The community team kicked off the month with a Spectrum Ask Me Anything about the reputation system in, obviously, that. We've talked about that. They supported Invictus Week by creating new player FAQ and the manufacturer schedule. They also polished the Scorpion FAQ. Microtech 1951 screenshot contest. No one really cares. No offense to the community team, they do a great job, but it's not what we're interested in, right? Engine. This is one of the things I actually do care about. So the engine. The physics team finalized the support for tracking floating point exceptions within physics, which began in April. That, to me, floating point is like, for example, when you're floating in space and you pick up an object. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. I'm not a dev. I'm just a modder. But that's my understanding. It's like tracking when things float through space, where it is exactly according to a GPS coordinates using the floating grid system. As a side effort, this enabled more efficient vendor code generation on the Linux servers. The rest of the month was spent optimization, including improvements to mid and narrow phase, soft body collision detection. There were also several updates to the sign distance fielding, SDF, which as tile-based polygons with remeshing SDFs and optimization, blah, blah, blah. Various updates were also made based on 3.13 telemetry. This is basically working on SDF. The team further progressed with the Gen 12 renderer. Oh, this is what I want to know about. Including submission improvements to the scale form UI render path that it was established last month. The render graphic, which is a key component in Gen 12, received initial support from the resource team. Resource transition APIs, split barriers, and resource state validation, all of which are important for the next Gen 12 low-level API, such as Vulkan and Gen 12. They debugged the graphics render was also updated. Furthermore, the text render was also refactored and optimized for the support of images, help code, and was added, and more pipelines were enabled for Gen 12 by default, including tile shading, SSR, SSDO, shadow mask generation, and scatter queries. What you basically need to know, guys, is they're progressing. We're working on the steps to implement Gen 12 and Vulkan. It's not Gen 12 and Vulkan now, but it's the processes to bring it in at a future date. It's the setup to bring the new system in line with the old system and make it so they work. Additionally, a significant low-level process was made in memory management, which involved various types of buffer and packet allocations, moving to a more efficient scheme. Lastly, the renderer various APIs were exposed via common interferences, so high-level code can eventually make use of them to prepare packets and data. So they're basically just working on your memory for your GPU, what it sounds like anyway, from my understanding. Sounds like they're working on management of memory systems and stuff like that. On the graphics front, the hair render received various improvements such as fixed shadow, map generation of view align standards, a new experimental scattering method for better looking blonde hair. Eyeshadow shading got support from the normal plus blend map, with re-rendering specular overlays. The eyeball texture can now also be resized to make shadowed textures better fit varying eye geometry. So, not being racist, but Chinese or Asian people have slightly smaller eyelids or smaller eyes. So, obviously, this would allow for the eyes to be resized so that they can have different Asian features and stuff like that. The volumetric cloud system receives support for density queries, so various effects can respawn at the game to react to the presence of cloud at given allocations. Scatter queries support was also added so transparent and forward shading objects properly take clouds into account when rendering. The work on SDF for efficient space skipping continued too. On the core engine side, the team updated the core build to base with Chang 11 time, which was also spent investing and fixing some of those startup crashes people are experiencing on Windows 7 machines after the 3.13 rollout. Additionally, some support was given to improvements to our anti-cheat measures. So as for the engine side of things, they're working on Gen 12, they're working on Glass Cloud, they're working on anti-cheat, and basically facial features for your character creation and stuff like that. Features, characters and weapons. As a part of the next iteration of actor statuses, the team worked on medical support gameplay. When completing, players will be able to equip a dedicated healing item that allows them to scan other players or NPCs to see if they're vitals, including limb status. Significant work went into allowing this information to be displayed as an augmented reality overlay on the target player or NPC. Oh, I like that. I'll explain that in a sec. If the player is close enough to the target character, they can use the same tool to administer a combination of drugs via short-range beam, which is significantly more effective than existing meti-pens that can be further enhanced by tweaking the levels of drug administered. So, for example, your character, from my understanding, your character might scan the person, and what you actually see comes up in some other augmented reality. So maybe it might be like come up in your eyes. So there might be some sort of link to like an eye sort of contact that will show the damage to the person, or it might come up on the screen, for example, to show like a picture of the person and where they're damaged and whatever it may be. I would say they're going to go more to the fact that it actually would come up in your display. So I might be standing there, I see Fez, I scan him, I say he has a neurological deficiency,
Excuse me, what now?
And then you might see, when you're looking at the character, you might see the issue coming up on the scan, but it might come up in your own display of when you're looking at Fez, for example. That's where I think they might be going with that. Maybe. Or maybe, for example, you scan them, you click on a button, and then it brings up the scan on another window. Maybe might be something like that, like similar to the Moby Glass. Maybe that. But yeah, when you scan someone, it will show you in this other view where they're damaged, where they might need help, what sort of drugs they need, and what sort of treatments. So it might just be as simple as you touching a button and it pops up like the Moby Glass, whatever it may be, something like that. Yeah, so it might be actually that, might be.
Just completely missed a dirty joke there.
Did I? Okay. But I was going to say, but yeah, it sounds like it actually might be that, actually, more than the coming up in your current view. Augmented reality is something that's aside from the normal view, so I would say it's most likely going to come up on a screen, like a projection. To see when players are severely injured, feature team to put the final touches to the first hurt locomotion set. This replaces the normal locomotion based on with the entirely new set of motion capture, idle movement, and animation. So, like, for example, if you've got like a broken leg, your character might limp or drag the leg, for example. Addition varies layered up on top, prominently to help communicate the hurt motivation to the first-person view, such as slightly lowering of equipment, weapons, and minor losses, including in minor increases in head bobbing. So, like, for example, if you have a concussion, your head might bob and whatnot, or if you got a broken arm, you might be able to hold your weapon up as long without it sort of starting to sink, for example. Feature gameplay. The US gameplay feature team spent May looking into most must-fix issues for Alpha 3.13.1, as well as setting up the expo halls for Invictus. They'll be on that. They're working on the upcoming incentives, including the player asset management, which is the new PMA, PAM, sorry, which is I think it's supposed to be the player manager asset, not player asset manager, but whatever. Last saw the app successfully pull into the inventory items that the player owns, so they're coming up with item cache. That's them working on item cache in the future with new inventory. This allows the team to synchronously pull data from multiple sources so that it can be displayed in the UI. Game features in current discussion with the backend teams, allowing players to define simple query parameters starting the term item type. Meanwhile, UI design wrapped up the initial concept of the layer of the app, working with the narrative to name it. So they've said that we have much on the baseline functionality in place and will hopefully be able to wrap up the majority of our remaining work before the final month of Q2. Do we want to make a prediction that item cache is coming out soon in the next patch or two?
Maybe.
The team also progressed with the cargo refactor. Thank God, because to be honest, I'm sick of getting in my ship and not realizing I have cargo, but it's just not there because it doesn't show up. Happened to me with the Cutlass the other night. I was selling the materials that I'd mined, and the first time I brought the ship out and stored it, it was there. It was in the cargo bay. But then when I stored the ship and then brought it out again, the cargo was completely missing to the point where I thought that maybe I had reclaimed the ship. I had to actually go back and check the terminal to make sure there was cargo on it.
So you do know what it means for the cargo refactor, right?
Yeah. Inventory cache, item cache.
Not just that. The frickin' hull C's and the other hulls.
Oh yeah, hull C, the caterpillar. It's also like even possibly stealing as well. Like, for example, say a caterpillar blows up and loses half of its cargo. you might be able to go and claim that cargo and then sell it. It also means loading and unloading too. There's a whole bunch
And
of stuff
also,
that comes. Yep.
they would actually give the cargo decks some use now,
Yeah.
other than just having them there.
Yeah. Well, they're only there because they're waiting for the stuff to come in. So
They could have brought it in with the cargo refractor and not just say like, "Hey, let's bring these in 3 patches before it's actually needed."
but that's because they need something to link it to. We've talked about this before. For example, if you want to go through and build a new cargo system and you want to use the cargo decks, you need the cargo decks to be in the game so that you can link to it.
Whatever. I don't care.
Team is also close to finalising the PDDs and the plan to begin working on the feature itself in June. What's TDDs?
TDDs or
TDDs? Is that trade and development depots? Is that like when you trade like items and stuff like that? Like when you sell stuff
maybe.
at Hurston?
Maybe.
Intentionally, the polish is still underway for the next Domanic event, which had more QA resources dedicated to it, allows them to find any remaining edge cases so they can wrap up their work in the next few weeks. So it sounds like we might actually be getting that next Domanic event at 3:14 and not when, someone might have been suggesting. There was a lot of speculation that we were going to be getting it at Invictus Week.
You're talking about 400?
Not just the 400. But we're also talking about, remember there was supposed to be some Domanic event coming with Invictus Week?
Oh, Ninetales Lockdown, yeah.
Yes, yeah. How's that going? Do we want to can we just send a quick message to the Discord and just ask them how that's going and see if we can get a response from someone in particular? Interesting test. Right, so the UK-based team worked on their new gameplay features, including gadgets to bring in additional risks to reward to mining. The feature code is complete. I wonder what they mean there. Bring in additional risks and rewards to mining. New gameplay features. That's interesting.
Mine is going to get more fun for you.
Feature code is also complete, and teams are working on with the artists the asset development for the different models. Maybe piracy? Maybe pirates will come and attack you if you're in your prospector and you're mining?
I mean, they do that. They do that anyways.
I've never been attacked mining. Not by...
That's because you're no fun.
Well... So you're saying I should call my prospector no fun?
Sure.
Loot generation process throughout May as well. Loot generation, interesting, which will spawn crates at different locations throughout the universe. This feature is still in code development, but is progressing well. Gameplay features hope to share more details on this in the near future. So that to me sounds like, for example, if you go into a cave mission, there might be loot generation there, for example. So you might be able to go through and there might be a box which has a gun or a bunch of bullets or whatever it may be. That's interesting. I like that idea. Features, vehicles. Oh boy. We've still got heaps to go through this, don't we? Oh wow. Feature vehicles. Last month, feature vehicles polished vehicle to station docking to support Invictus. That's great, terrific. Various issues such as, okay, whatever. Once completed, we're going to try and skim through some of this, guys. We're taking way too long. Once completed, some of the team pivoted to jump point development. Ooh, interesting. Which builds an existing work complete for CitizenCon 2949. They're also looking for better ways to test and collaborate on jump points. Why are they focusing so much on jump points?
Who knows? It's a complete mystery. I couldn't fathom as to why.
I would say that's probably going to be something for we get to see for CitizenCon. I bet you they show off Minx and Pyro. I bet you we get both.
Nah.
CitizenCon.
That would be too much work for CIG. Nah.
They've already been working on Pyro and Lynx already. They could have the jump gate between the two of those. Maybe you call into Ruin Station. Ruin Station, do a mission, and then that takes you over to Lynx or Pyro or wherever it may be. And then...
All I gotta say with Ruined Station is you better be packing.
Yeah, I've heard that. Graphics and visual effects. So vehicle experience feature work together to finalize features of 14. For this, they updated the ship HUD. Oh.
Yes, I love the new ship HUD update. It looks nice.
Missile operator mode, missile guidance, and the new power triangle system. These features just missed the Alpha 3.13 release with the window, so they're in good position, although they still need testing and integration. So we're getting new ship HUDs for 3.14 is what they're saying.
Yes.
New ship HUDs, operator modes for missile guidance, and a new power triangle system. That's cool. Team worked on drunk flying and driving behaviors with the actor team. New intoxication. What? Huh? What? New intoxication.
All right.
Mechanics. We're gonna get drunk. Woohoo!
Finally.
To the bar, everybody. What do they mean?
No. I'm gonna start a fight.
What do they mean?
Gonna start a fight.
We're gonna have to redo that scene that we shot for the machinima. You know that now, right?
Oh God, yes.
We didn't have enough drinking in that one. Maybe they might have to make it so that glasses don't disappear when you put them down. That'd be a good start. Graphics and VFX programming. Although throughout May, the graphics and VFX programming team have made significant improvements to the system. Okay, work started on a Windows shader extension to allow views into fake interiors with support of randomized room sizes, rotations, colors, and lighting. Render to texture system was modified to allow more bespoke composition and post-efficiency pipeline for the UI team, which will bring greater visual performance. Of course, super low distance LODs. Pre-streaming support was added for various game systems such as Death Mask, Muzzle Flashes, Quantum Travel, pre-stream textures, blah 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 blah. The shield effects setup was reworked to enable a single effect to be used on multiple ships of varying scale. With May focusing on heat management of the rune system. So they've worked on the fire hazard system mentioned in previous reports, continued with May's focus on the heat management of room systems. So now the fires will have heat involved in them. So if you're standing there, you might cook yourself.
Nice.
The streaming support for gas clouds was also developed and reduced memory issues and improved along loading times. For Gen 12 renderer, the new Vulkan extension reporting system was added so that 3.14 onwards the team will be able to gather data on what hardware and drivers support they have for Vulkan features. This will help them use newer features when sufficiently support. The team also generalizes the GPU to CPU readback system to support the DirectX 9 era texture sampling code to a modern equivalent. My understanding is that's what's causing the bottleneck they were talking about with one of the devs answering the questions on. So maybe that might help. Lighting. In May, the lighting team focused on ensuring the Invictus event halls were polished and optimized. Yay, great, terrific. Existing docking lobbies of the RNA space stations. Great, they worked on docking, who cares? We've seen it already. There was also collaboration between the environment, art, and lighting SFX and vehicle feature team to ensure docking experience and the lighting animations were both functional and exciting. Okay, so they've also gone through and did lighting for Orison. Now I'm putting these on the screen. Right. So that's looking like it's a bar with a tree involved. Okay, so the inside of Orison is going to be very very tree, very sort
I
of.
do like tree.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're seeing this, if you've got the same screen up, but that is looking really, really good actually. So yeah, I like that. I've always said Orason's going to be my new home. Narrative. Narrative team spent time supporting Invictus and working on the character development. Working on Invictus, quite terrific. There's also heavy influence of and needed on names and descriptions. Continue to sync with design on the original players to be able to work. Additional work to create a corrosive character sheet for PU characters featuring solution of departments. Last month we saw the release of the second part of the Gift of Baba short story. Did I miss that? Debate on Showdown of the Invictus, a reprint of the portfolio of the Lightning Bolt Company. No one really cares, alright? Cool. Props team wrapped up their hospitals, producing a variety of generic high-tech props along with a few bespoke to each of the landing zone. They work closely with the active features to get the medical beds working correctly, which is a complex prop with a lot of moving parts. Do we want to worry about QA? Or just skip it?
See, I think you're just taking way too long.
Yeah. Systematic services and tools. Last month, Systematic Tools finished the last variants of the tool for the economy and AI simulation, working alongside community to represent the latest in update for Quasar, which we've already seen. Wrapped up on the Super P cache for the next release, which serves as the AI info and NPC creations services were literated on. Stability of the systematic system was also improved for Invictus, allowing to the team to handle the player concurrency without taxing the services. Finally, progress was made on server meshing, with the emphasis on the new hybrid systems service that allow to communicate the future's needs. I like the fact they're working on server mesh. Tech animation. Tech animation quietly dissolves the long-standing of its process. Team invested time in R&D around the animation pipeline. They spent time clearing up several animation bugs for Invictus Week. Turbulent. Throughout May, live teams performance long due maintenance of the launcher as well as a few evolutions. They improved the performance of the entire graph. Providing new iterations of warmth, the tools that helps prepare for the server's upcoming currency. Game servers, we're not really worried about that. Second last thing, vehicle tech. Alongside fixing Invictus-related bugs for 3.13.1, vehicle team also put the finishing touches on vehicle radar and scanning experience, centering the new getting the new UI direct improvements to integrate it into the code base to ensure the smooth delivery for Alpha 3.14. Early in the month, they polished the Nova Tank experiences, which obviously we know about. Although, if you polished it, maybe you should have detected the fact that it was crashing the servers. They also ensured that various ship landing gear worked correctly. Great, terrific. Including when shops streaming in and out, blah, blah, blah. And VFX. Last month, generally, bug fixing for our Alpha 3.13.1. They also started making Orason's effects, including falling and blowing cherry blossoms, water features, holographic displays. Kicked off the medical medical healing beam. They also went through and developed fire hazards. Continued to develop fire hazards, especially focusing on visualization and how the types of propagate might look in the future. Future spaceship. So they worked on fire. Finally, they worked on much anticipated new patch lighting system added to the new game builds, and artists been sweeping through the exterior's effects to allow them to take advantage of the new lighting setup. Right. There's a lot in that. They've basically done a lot this month. Yeah, obviously this is way big video. This will be the last one we upload for the day. Just quickly there, if there's anything that sticks out, that point out that you're interested in, that rings alarm bells for you, or that you would like to hear about.
Redeemer's exterior paint is moving into final phase.
And multiple paints.
Multiple paints?
Yeah.
We're gonna get multiple paints for it? Oh, hell yeah.
Looks like it.
I didn't see that, but you know.
So Redeemer has moved to final art phase and the creation of various themed ship paints.
Okay, that's even better. I'm happy that I bought the 2 of them.
I like there's a lot in this that they've done for the month. They've worked on medical, they've worked on a lot of the AI, they've worked on like the hospital stuff, they've worked on Orison. It looks like we're going to be getting 314 with the Eva Cardi, I would say probably this month, sorry. So I would say around the 15th to the 20th. And at the end of the day, obviously we'll be covering all the leaks when they do come out. But yeah, I won't know what these 2 undesigned ships or unconcepted ships are. They talked about. I would say maybe the Banyu is one. Maybe the Merchantman. But
nah. I don't think so, because, you know, CIG hates the Bennu. They're not going to bring that shit out.
Well, we know the Banyu is actually being worked on, because it was actually being worked on for the past few months, at least.
That was a scam, and you know it.
But yeah, I would say it's probably the Banyu is probably one of them. And maybe the Xi'an cargo ship is probably the second one.
I hope so.
Guys, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. Obviously, this will be the second or third video today. We're going to do the roadmap. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to do the roadmap roundup, but we're going to sort of shoot through those pretty fast. This is obviously the in-depth one. This is obviously the one that is a lot of info. I want to read it out because at the end of the day, it's obviously, look, it's interesting, right? It tells you exactly what they're working on. And Supermac, eat your heart out. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. I actually quite like Supermac. Actually, I think he's a wonderful guy. But yeah, let us know what your thoughts are in that comment section below. And obviously, apart from that, guys, have a great night and enjoy yourselves. I say bye.
Yeah, I suppose so. Goodbye.